Hey. Good evening. Welcome to the 5:30 meeting of the Gates Mills Village Council. July 16th, 2024 at 5:30. May I have the roll call, please?
Anton,
Here.
Broom. Here. Deacon,
Here.
Press, Steinbrink.
Here.
Welsh.
Here.
Ms. Turner will be about 30 minutes late. She had a travel commitment, so she'll be here about 30 minutes, and we'll move the agenda around a little bit just to make sure we have her for some of the parts that she'd like to participate in. Next item of business is pay ordinance number 1287 for 800. Number 2, the minutes. Thank you, Janet. So the minutes of the meeting of June 18th, 2024 were provided to you in advance. I'll publicly compliment Clerk Beth DeCapit for the wonderful job she did summarizing a rather lengthy set of discussions and different conversations into summary paragraphs. As we know, the meetings are all taped, so if you're looking for exact wording or references, they're available electronically. I think those were a good summary. With that said, are there any comments, corrections, suggestions for the minutes?
We shouldn't call these minutes, we should call them hours.
Okay.
Move to
agree.
approve.
So I have one typo.
Yes.
One typo.
Scott.
I know. So on page 6, it is the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5th line down. Starts with make decisions. I think it's supposed to be pollsters in chief.
Oh, you said that, you would know. Okay.
No, I think that was Sean Riley.
Oh, okay. You're right. So it's pollsters in
In
chief. We will correct that.
Also on page 9, Rick Heimer's name on
Is wrong.
third paragraph or third line of the first paragraph is an Hymer.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Fix that too.
No other corrections or suggestions. I would appreciate a motion to approve the minutes.
Move to approve.
Thank you, Ed. Thank you, Michael. Any
Yeah,
further
Tom.
discussion? Roll
Anton,
call. Thank you.
Yes.
Broom,
Yes.
Deacon,
Yes.
Press, Steinbrink.
Yes.
Welsh.
Yes.
Thank you. Pay ordinance 1287 for $867,748.57.
Move to approve.
Thank you, Ed.
Second.
Thank you, Craig. Any questions or comments on the pay ordinance? Hearing none. Roll call.
Anton,
Yes.
Broom,
Yes.
Deacon,
Yes.
Press, Steinbrink.
Yes.
Welsh.
Yes.
Okay, let's go to item 4A, Encore. I wanted just to update council that I had a conversation with the chairman of the Encore board as well as his predecessor, Bill Avigna, our resident. They were both excited about the Encore presentations and the Institute this year and our participation. I expressed a similar amount of gratitude for them bringing that to us and allowing us to participate with them and name it with the Gates Mills name. Particularly want to recognize the effort that Jerry put in to bring that forth and make numerous phone calls and connections to show as many people in Gates Mills as possible the repertoire of these students and these mentors. At the Encore board meeting, whenever that occurs, they all put together some statistics on how many individuals they touched in the village, how many individuals heard their music outside the village, other organizations, the amount of contributions that we helped raise, the amount of contributions that came from other sources, and other types of things like that to give us a little bit of fact and data on how well the concert, how well the Institute performed and how well the Gates Mills part performed. That'll be sometime in August, and I think that'll form a view on what we do in years 2 and 3. As you recall, this was something we wanted to do for 3 years, and year 1 was a start. We'll need some data to again show us how well it worked and what we can do differently. I'd expect to then bring back to council in September a recommendation of sorts as to how we proceed with Encore in year 2. and have that conversation. I hope that many of you had a chance to see it live in some of the many venues. There were a number here in Gates Mills at the Improvement Society, at the Burton Court, in the Pavilion, obviously next door at the Village Hall, in this building, at the Community Center, for the last presentation, something at the Garden Club. We had quartets in a number of different places, as well as wherever else they performed in Northeast Ohio. It was a real pleasure to see the accomplishments of those musicians. Next item is the Mayfield City School District Town Hall meeting. Council has asked a few times for Mayfield schools to be available to the citizens and to council to get reports on the school system and the upcoming levy, which they are planning. At the same time, a council meeting, in my view, is a little bit too limited and doesn't provide enough time and frankly, enough maybe back and forth to be able to do that at council meeting. So I have arranged with the Improvement Society that they will host a town hall type event. We'll invite all villagers to that town hall event. It will be in September. I provided the school board with about 10 different dates that we're holding for that meeting. The goal there will be to hear from the school board directly and from the superintendent, the treasurer, the trustees, whomever attends, their viewpoint on their report card, which I think will be out by that, as well as comments on the levy, and give us a chance both before and during and after the meeting to ask them questions and otherwise hear directly from those representative bodies. The Improvement Society has offered to do this and to pay for this, so this should require no outlay of village funds, but for the use of our facilities here. Okay. Welcome, Sandra. You've got Sandra noted.
Yes.
Next item is a continued discussion on zoning. At the last meeting, which lasted close to an hour plus on this topic, we ended the meeting with a lot of good points on the need to inform through a town hall type environment the residents and the electors of our city village on a number of matters. I think at least 4 of the 7 council people were expressing the positivity of having a town hall meeting, whether there's an issue or not. And because we've talked about this twice now, it has created some interest in what are you guys talking about. So I've circulated to council a half a dozen to a dozen dates in September to have a town hall meeting. The nature of that would be that we present first to those in attendance, and we'll videotape this because it'll be in this session. A current explanation of what our current zoning is, with particular emphasis on the 5-acre minimum lot size, section 1160, and high density multifamily. We'll walk through the regulations and ordinances that we currently have on the books and how those work. We'll explain to individuals that are there so they, again, have a basis of understanding before we ask them for their opinions. What happens at a planning and zoning meeting, what has to occur before any change in an ordinance or zoning ordinance is approved, and the form that the committee goes through looking for validation of the 6 or 7 or 8 valid reasons for why there might be a variance. We're hoping that will provide then a somewhat of a level playing field of what information is out there with regard to zoning and changes to zoning and how that's currently conducted by the village. It would be logical then to extend that to a conversation on adding notice and posting requirements of any potential changes, so that if council does present something, that it is presented and posted and notified to the electors in advance. I think we talked about last time, some of the current legislation requires a 15-day publication, we may want to talk about how we can enhance that either by more time, by publication in certain journals, by email or U.S. Postal Service mail, perhaps by certified mail if someone feels strong about that, but to make sure that everybody is aware of the posting requirements. Council may at that time want to have a conversation on changing or improving that process by an ordinance that could be drafted and presented for discussion at that point. After that, I think the next order of business would be to talk about a charter amendment and about how that would be an additional belt and suspender control to make sure that zoning changes that are proposed by council are available to and perhaps need to be required to be changed or approved by the voters. So I think if we follow something like that process to first educate people so they have working knowledge, talk about improving the existing posting and notice elements, and then talk about the costs and the benefits of a charter amendment, that may be a way to go. I would see that we could do all that in September, and I've confirmed with Todd Hunt that he would be an integral part of discussing that since he has a significant knowledge of the laws and ordinances, regulations that we've had on the books here for a number of years. Let me pause there and take comments. Michael.
I think the town hall is a good idea, as you well know. I've been in favor of that all along. I also think it would be appropriate to have a workshop on zoning for council to talk about some of the more complicated issues. There's been a lot of discussion at our last meeting about 1160, and that fits, in my mind, better in a workshop than it does in a town hall meeting, at least start in a workshop. I think we had Bruce Rinker in during the comprehensive planning process. I'd like to have somebody like Bruce Rinker back to talk about what are our vulnerabilities of our current zoning and what are our options for fixing those. And last but not least, I think that there's probably some risks that are in the commercial downtown area where we have zoning that allows up to over six buildings per acre. And that's fine right now because we're in a nice status quo situation. But if, for example, the Hunt Club were to sell out, or somebody were to buy up 2 or 3 parcels on Colvin or something like that, we'd find ourselves in a situation where a developer could come in and build an awful lot of houses on very little real estate with our current zoning. And I think that is a risk that is worthy of discussion by council. Now, maybe some of the things that came out of that workshop would feed into the town hall. But some of that stuff is fairly heavy lifting and deep dive and probably not ready for town hall, at least till we've discussed it and they're all on the same page and speaking the same language.
So 2 things I've heard. One is a general workshop generally on 1160. Secondly, would be in the context of a specific possible parcel as an example of what the.
Well, the
implications
Bruce
might be.
Brinker risk of, are we vulnerable with
Right.
our current zoning? And if so, what can we do about it?
Right.
If anything? And last, are we vulnerable in the commercial downtown district where we have fairly zoning that allows dense housing, much more dense than exists right now. But if it fell into the wrong hands, we might not like the outcome.
Thank you. Thoughts and comments on Michael's suggestions?
I agree with him. I think in my own mind, I don't understand, for example, let's say Gilmore chose to put a lot of houses on their southeastern corner, backing up on Dorchester. In the comprehensive plan, there was discussion of an idea of 2 houses per acre on 20 acres, I think it is they've got. And I don't know how that would work. So if Gilmore sold it to a developer, I have no idea what restrictions we have in place already to defend the village. And it's better to be preemptive on this stuff rather than to be reactive after a developer comes into the picture with all guns firing. So I'm very much with Michael on this one.
Okay. Good points. We can't do all that for all the parcels that are vulnerable. So, we can't.
No, a couple of
But I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's use it as an example for.
Yeah.
Ed, comments?
No,
Thank you. Sandra?
I would agree with a workshop on these issues before we schedule any kind of town hall meeting to really get into, understand these issues ourselves. And again, it'd have to be carefully structured and scheduled and determine who are going to be the speakers.
Okay, Todd, if I remember right, a workshop is essentially all the council present, but no action can be taken? Or what's the benefit of a workshop?
open discussion. Would be open to discussion among the council members. Self, with you, et cetera. And if another attorney would like to be brought in, that's fine with me.
Okay,
I've known Mr. Rinker for 30 years.
could be him or someone else,
And I talked to him today. so-
Yeah. But no action taken.
Right,
at a-
well,
at a
you could,
workshop.
you could do a special meeting that where if you contemplate action, but I don't know what action would
Okay.
be taken.
Okay,
Workshop.
thank you.
Yeah, it's a special, it'll be a special meeting.
Yeah.
with
Okay.
24 hours advance.
Charlie, let me go around the table and get the council people first. Okay? Craig?
Yeah, I think town hall's a great idea. I also think a workshop is a great idea. I think there's some confusion in terms of what can and can't be done. We have zoning requirements in the village. You have to have 200 feet of frontage for a lot. It's 5 acre minimum lot size. And then you also have the issue of septic. So, I would think it would be highly unlikely, for multiple homes to be built on a 5 acre lot or a 1 acre lot or a 2 acre lot, just from the EPA standpoint and approval of the septic system. So, talking specifically about Gilmore and 2 lots, I've never heard anything about that. Every lot's got to have 200 feet of frontage. No flag lots can be created anymore. So there are pretty stringent zoning restrictions in place right now. Now, that's not to say that somebody couldn't come in and ask for a variance, but there's 7 Duncan factors that we would have to go through. And it's not just gets approved on a whim. So it's a quasi judicial meeting, as our law director has made reference to in a number of meetings. So it's very esoteric. It's confusing at times. And I think having a foundation for what can and cannot be done currently is very important, because that lays a foundation for what may or may not need to be done as a result.
Okay, thank you. Sandra, did I hear you were okay for the workshop, but you didn't have a comment on the town hall?
I would support a town hall meeting after the workshop.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Steve. Yeah, Sandra makes a good point that it might really be helpful, given the confusion often over the requirements, that we do the workshop first. So we would be, well informed before the town hall, which I think sounds like a great idea. And the only other thing I would add is just, and I know it's down the road, but just not to lose sight of the fact that if we do anything regarding the charter, we have a laundry list of items where the charter's not up to date and in compliance with the Ohio Revised Code. And so all of that really should be addressed at the same time it goes to the voters, which would be quite an education process, but just something that I think we need to do.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Broom?
I'm in favor of the workshop. I think if we're going to have a town hall to discuss the issues, we should use the workshop opportunity to get educated as to exactly what's. And it's hard for us to conduct the town hall and inform the residents if we're not all, I don't mean to be aligned on the same page, but if we don't all have the same understanding of what is and isn't doable. So I think it's a great idea.
Okay. So it sounds like a pretty good understanding and consensus on that, a workshop and a town hall in that order. And I would say the use of an outside perspective we'll just call it that at this point, to provide a little bit of objectivity and independence and freshness to the conversation. And perhaps one property that would be used as an example of how the 5 acres or the 200 feet of frontage or septic system, or whatever, could apply in that situation. Sandra?
I would suggest that in addition to the other speaker recommended that Chris Courtney be there and someone from the health department.
Okay.
Since septic is often a big issue.
Okay, thank you. Charlie, you had a comment?
Confidential enough that there would be no proposal out, and you could have other people come, but doesn't that bring the situation? So. Like, oh,
I believe a workshop is open.
Public meeting, yeah,
yes.
Yes.
special meeting.
And we could even have it taped or live streamed, whatever capabilities we have here. Okay, any further discussion on this topic? Ed?
Could I possibly bring up another topic? I think we're all suffering through this property tax reappraisal. You know, we just got our notices today with the plus 20%. And it's out of control. Now you just announced that the school board's going to have another increase on top of that. So I was wondering if it'd be appropriate that we could have a workshop sponsored by the Cuyahoga County Appraisal Group to show us how to appeal these processes, because they're just way overboard for me. I don't know about everybody else feels about it.
We can certainly do that. I attended a conference of type that Chris Ronane's office put together specifically on the appraisal and the impact and so on. They have a number of scheduled locations and dates already. We can get those out and get those publicized to everyone so they could do those. Whether I could get them to come down here and speak just to our group, I don't know if they'll have the manpower to do that, but we can certainly ask them.
Yeah, because we only have till August, I guess, to get this filed.
Yes.
And I think we all need help on this.
Okay.
At least I do.
Okay, with that,
So how do we leave that then? Are you going to see if they'll schedule something or what?
on the appraisal,
Yeah.
I'll call the county
Okay,
and see whether they have the ability to put forth
do a
a
workshop for us.
workshop here for us.
Okay.
They've got them scheduled all over the county. But I'll ask them, can we have one down
I mean,
here?
we're going to be very hardly hit, so, or hard hit, I should say.
On the county website, there is a calculator which enables you to put in your old value, the new value, and it will tell you what your increase in your taxes are. And that was a shock to me because my house went up a lot more in value than the 24%, which is average for Gates Mills. So the impact on my tax bill is large. And then we're facing the school levy as well. These are going to be 15% increases for people on their.
The good news of all of that is we have our own Gates Mills operating levy that we're just renewing. So
Oh, yeah.
that would be the third
Yep.
item, in addition to voting for whoever you're going to vote for political office. But there are 3 money levies on the
Yeah, there are.
front of you.
Todd, I don't know your vision. Can you help us out on this too, to shed some light on what we should do?
Well, I got my reappraisal and my new tax, the reappraisal last week.
Mhm.
And I found the literature in there very informative in terms of filing appeal, going downtown.
I just got one letter today. That's all I got.
Got mine today.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. Thanks for bringing that up. Next item on the mayor's report, village committees included in your packet this weekend was a current listing, somewhat of a draft of the village committees. Those essentially are either last year's committees with some slight changes to them, a few new committees. And in 2 or 3 instances, I collapsed the committees that had been listed but hadn't met for a few years because the nature of why they exist in the first place is kind of past us. One of those was a watershed committee. The other one was the gas well safety committee. Not that both of those items are not important items, but there really isn't any committee work to do, and to have people assigned to committees and then wonder why they're never called or used is a little circular. So we kept the committee chairman and put an annotation note that said, you know, if there's a need, those committees could be staffed.
Do you need a motion to accept the committees?
Thank you. May I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Scott. Conversation or discussion on the committee lists? Okay, roll call.
Anton,
Yes.
Broom,
Yes.
Deacon,
Yes.
Press.
Yes.
Steinbrink.
Yes.
Turner,
Yes,
Welch.
Yes.
Thank you.
So inside that approval is approval of Mitch Bass becoming chairman of the tree canopy.
That's
Subcommittee.
correct. He's listed there.
Good.
Thank you. Clerk's report.
Nothing to report.
Okay, thank you. Financial report, I'll present that. It's been posted to the village website as well. In addition to that, are the financial statements which were on the website. We also had a Budget and Finance Committee meeting a few days ago and discussed the financial results the first 6 months of the year. We discussed what the next 6-month outlook might be. We looked at some long-range financial schedules. We looked at the impact of a few items that could impact that. Talked about the investment policy statement and had a general conversation on levels of our cash and our investment. So as to the village's financial position at the end of June, we're continue to be in good shape. We look to be either achieving our budget, which was a break-even budget, or perhaps exceeding that. Could be by upwards of $200,000. We have had, as reported previously, some better projections from the RETA taxing authorities on what our amount could be for the year. We've also looked at the speed enforcement camera revenue, and there's an opportunity there for some additional funding. Our expenses are pretty much all as expected. We did factor in the additional cost of the Saturday station duty of the fire department. Some additional work, the fence outside the community center here was done. It wasn't budgeted for, but it was necessary. 3 HVAC units we put in the Mills building back in January and February. Everything pretty much about on track. And as I reported in the past, our 2 bigger projects, the 2 culverts are completed and closed out and should not give us any additional financial risk. The only item that I could see of some degree of risk is if something happens on County Line Road. We'll be starting on the 18th, the resurfacing along with Jaga County and Chester Township. It's a 5-mile strip of road. And while a lot of work's been done to spec out what's needed and identify any pre-existing problems that we could jump on, once you start uncovering the road, there could be things below the surface that weren't anticipated or weren't foreseen that need some work. If we find that there are none and the road project is supposed to last 6 weeks, so let's just say that's July 15th to August 31st, we could find ourselves here in early September with a pretty clear sense of where our road program is for the year. And perhaps with a budget surplus, a small budget surplus this year rather than break even, we might want to talk about doing Andrews or Hill Creek this year. We did talk about that back in the spring as to deferring those until we knew more about both the culverts and County Line. We'll know that information by September. So Chris and Dave will have a conversation with us all in early September, and we'll probably bring that to the September council meeting if we have a point of view on fixing those this year. Were there any questions on the financial statements? I also wanted to thank Janet, who's taken on the job of preparing the report subject to my review and edits. That's been helpful to, she's got an excellent command of where the numbers are and come from, and it frankly has sped things up a little bit. Greg?
Yeah, suggestion and a comment. I wonder under, under the second paragraph, under general fund, if we could, there's a reference in there to the margin in terms of what the village takes versus what Gatso and the Lyndhurst Municipal Court get, and that's really not accurate. That's not what's in the contract. And so I wonder if we could put something in there that's more general, that maybe doesn't mislead people, that would, almost like what we have in the first paragraph here, you know, camera revenue collections are dependent on billing and collection and timing of payments, because that will fluctuate in terms of if a citation is issued today, someone may not pay it for 30 days or 60 days. Money has to go to the Lyndhurst Municipal Court. And so there's a lag in terms of when citations are issued and when funds are actually received. So
Okay.
that margin, the
The margin could-
54% isn't accurate for what.
It'll vary by month is what you're saying.
Correct,
We,
right.
the impression you get from reading that is it's pretty static.
Correct,
Okay,
right.
we can adjust the
Yeah.
wording.
And then with the roof being done last month, I wonder, have we ever had a, you know, a consultant come in or the service department take an inventory? I mean, the village owns a lot of real estate over lifespan of roof, other, you know, assets that the village has in terms of planning for large outlays of capital for when things get done, or do we have a pretty good feel for that?
I've not seen a plan, so to answer that question, I think we rely on pretty good feel.
Okay,
That said, I think it'd be good to have a little bit of a plan. We do, if you look around, we do have some painting that needs to be done. There's some windows that need to be replaced that are rotting. I think Dave and Trevor probably have a pretty good feel of what needs to be done, but it'd be, I think, good to put that on paper. If you go inside Village Hall, as you all have been, it needs quite a bit of work in some areas. Obviously, we do that last because it's less visible to
Yep.
our residents, but that needs some work. So Dave, maybe you and I should chat about that, putting together a little bit of a analysis of what would need to be kind of repaired and freshed up and when. That be okay, Craig?
yeah, that's great.
Thank you. Any other comments on the financial statements? Okay. Thank you. Police Department report, Chief Minichillo.
Thank you, Mayor, members of council. Everybody should have received a copy of my monthly report. I will be front and back. I will be happy to entertain any questions.
I guess one question, Mayor, is that if we are going to be issuing tickets for those people traveling between 8 or whatever it is and 60 miles an hour, there are 5,500 people in June exceeded, we're in that bracket, 56 to 59 miles an hour. I wonder how many additional citations we're actually going to issue.
We have that number.
Well, this, obviously, you're talking about 4 miles per hour here, so I don't have the complete breakdown of each speed because everyone would be different, 56,
Sure,
57,
understand.
58, 59. So, I mean, we have some rough numbers and that's really all they are. I should point out that, our representative will be in town next month. I talked to him today. He's gonna do a site visit. So we're gonna do a complete review of where we're at after 1 year. They also will be in town prior to that to service the units out there that do that once a year recertification. So they'll be out next week for that. So we really wanted to kind of wait until around that 1 year mark to really get a good
Fine.
1 year feel for what's going on out there. So
Because as I understand it, we won't be issuing these citations until September, is that right?
The thought would be, we have a meeting with the Lyndhurst judge on August 16th. That'll be the kind of the 1 year anniversary. We'll review the program with him as well as the second notices, progress he's made. Their increased costs are decreased margin because we've absorbed their increased costs without passing it on. The current plan is that on August 31st, we would increase by 2 miles an hour the level at which we issue citations. That will add, I believe, Greg, 1,900 citations, something
probably,
order of magnitude. We don't need to be exact, but just so the
Yeah.
council has a view.
yeah, 1,200, 1,300. It varies. However, again, those are just passes. We don't know exactly what the number's going to be. But we would expect that to come down, just like what we did. I mean, you probably see a spike up here and then over time it would come down, just like we've seen with the camera. And just to remind everybody, I mean, when we got into the program about a year ago, we had said back then, obviously it's about safety, number one, and it's really all about safety, but we didn't know what we were going to experience administratively, how we're going to handle this. We saw some alarming numbers out there that ODOT presented us with. So we wanted to go ahead and start at that threshold, just kind of see where we're going to be at, and then make some tweaks along the way. So, the numbers have come down. We got a good handle on it. We're kind of figuring things out, internally behind closed doors, so to speak, and how to, run the program effectively. So, I think we're in a good place.
Thank you.
Any other questions for the police chief? Jerry? That's correct. I'm sorry? Is it what? Well, it's the first time we're bringing it up. It's the first time we're talking about changes. Council has approved the level at which we can issue a citation, and the 2-mile adjustment is within that threshold. Well, our safety has already improved, and we want to keep it at that level. It is to raise some additional funds because the costs that have been passed on to us, we've not yet passed on to anybody else. We're not subsidizing the court, we're paying them for their service. Lyndhurst is providing a variety of prosecutorial and legal services and clerk services. Well, it was never sold. It was presented in a variety of vantage points, primarily because of safety and the issues that we had. And thank goodness those average speeds have come down and they've stayed at that mid 40 to low 50 area. Well, we'll let the chief answer it himself and speak for himself. But, yeah. Okay,
I think
we're not doing anything today, so why don't we talk more about this so we don't have the entire council meeting on this one issue?
I think what Jerry's getting at is, could we use some of the funds that we raised from the traffic cams on Mayfield to somehow affect a safer situation elsewhere in the village? Is that right?
So we've got a safety committee, on September 4th, Greg,
Yes.
right? Well, and this is already on the agenda for that. We'll invite you on September 4th to come and talk about that. We're not doing anything tomorrow. We have time to talk about this. Okay, thank you for the comment.
Yeah, let me just interrupt. The problem with the conversation now is that nobody can really hear it because it's not at the microphone. So it probably should end now, what you're doing, but none of this has been captured.
Okay, thank you. Okay,
We can
Um,
move on, but I am personally, as a council member, much more concerned about safety on the roads in Gates Mills than I am on the road, on Mayfield Road, which is in some ways not a part of the village. I mean, there's very little traffic of Gates Mills people on that road. And there is a lot of speeding going on River and on County Line.
Yep.
If we do something about that, that would be good.
okay, we're going to add those to the safety committee agenda for September 4th, okay? All right, thank you. Any other comments, questions for the police chief?
That'll conclude my report. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay,
Thank you, Mayor, and members of council. You should have received a copy of my monthly report. Happy to answer any questions you may have.
I was asked a question the other day, David. The $1.5 million property or the permits you've issued on Sherman Road,
Yes.
that's at Ashford Court. When do you expect that house to be lived in?
Probably not for about a year. Typically,
I would guess,
it's not a large, it's not one of the larger homes, but typically construction of a new home, by the time it's all said and done and moved in, you're talking about a year.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes,
Dave, I've got a question too.
certainly.
It pertains to the, my understanding is the owner of 640 Chagrin River Road is trying to split off a lot, or maybe the lot's already there, already existing.
Already
It would
exists.
be a flag
Correct.
lot. I
Correct.
guess the question is that a buildable lot? And is it already, for example, Craig brought up the frontage requirement. It doesn't have that frontage requirement,
Correct.
but it might already be permitted.
Correct.
What is the status of 636? Is it a viable buildable lot?
Well, you know, and Todd and I had a little bit of a conversation earlier. Certainly, it's not going to fit a 35,000 square foot house. But in general, from a zoning standpoint, it is considered a buildable lot.
on top of that, and that could be discussed. The majority of the land is in a floodplain.
Right.
And that floodplain would require building it to floodplain standards or seeking a variance from building it to floodplain standards, which would come before the Board of Zoning Appeals.
Correct.
In addition, there are 7 neighbors to that lot that would all be consulted with regard to any side or front or backage requirements in terms of distance. It doesn't abut the Chagrin River, but it's close to it, and so there could be riparian restrictions that need to be considered. There are trees that are currently there that I believe are in the right of way as to where the driveway would be that would need to be cut down, and so those would require approval of tree cutting ordinance. There are a significant number of ordinances as well as where a house could possibly be located on that very odd shaped parcel. So technically, you know, Michael, with enough money, a lot of people can build anything anywhere. This would probably not be a practical place to build a
Let
home.
me rephrase. Does it need variances from P and Z?
There's no way to say
Or
that
is it
because they don't,
already okay from a P and Z point of view?
so there's no way to know if there would be variances because we don't know what he's going to build or where someone's going to build.
But the frontage, for example, that's not a,
The lot exists, so that exists as the lot.
Thank you.
It's a flag lot, correct?
It's also in the historic district, so between historic district approval and review, architectural review and approval, and P and Z zoning approval, it would take a significant effort to build a home there.
Property is listed for $400,000 and advertised as being the perfect site for your dream home.
it's, that would be,
The most
it's
expensive.
1.8 acres, so that would be over 200,000 per acre.
The county has that parcel valued at $65,000.
Yep.
So there's quite a bit of bid and ask difference there. We're aware of that. We've been watching it, and I think this is probably as far as we want this discussion to go. It is a lot, and she able to sell it, just as any of us could sell our properties if we wanted to. In terms of what it would require and what price and what restrictions that would go with it, that's a matter of discussion.
And buyer beware, obviously. Yeah.
In the meantime, not much is going on at 640.
Pretty much nothing.
640 has 2.5 months to go on their existing building permit.
Correct.
Tight.
We're aware of that too.
No other
Okay.
questions? That concludes my report.
I would just add to Dave's report, you see item 3 there, the recycling. Since we talked last time about the recycling statistics, and I said it, how relatively poor our village was compared to others. the actual report came out for 2023, and you can see we're at 11%. Recall that the state requirement for districts is 25%. Cuyahoga County, the district that would accumulate those statistics for Northeast Ohio here, achieved 31%. So at 11%, we're not doing our share. Hence the somewhat of the requirement and the cost to move to recycling that will start with the new contract in January. Thank you, Dave.
Thank you.
Mike? Tom Majewski's not with us today. Mike Feig will present his report.
Mayor, members of council, you should have received a 2-page fire department report. The second page, the chief just wanted to point out a new capital purchase was less than $1,000. It wasn't a significant purchase, but it was budgeted for. And you can see in the photos, we used our donated Tesla police cruiser for training. And this is a device that disables an electric vehicle or plug-in electric hybrid from being able to operate or move. It's a concern that fire departments, police departments have been dealing with in the area. We used to, at the scene of a car crash or a car fire, turn the vehicle off with the key in the ignition. Keys went away. We would have to locate the key fob and get it away from the vehicle. Now, a lot of these vehicles, those, you know, some of you might have, either operate from a key fob or just from your cell phone. There is no on or off button for the vehicle, so we as the fire department don't really have a safe way to put it in park if we're working on a vehicle or a patient inside a vehicle. So plugging this device in fools the vehicle into thinking it's charging, which its internal safeties then disable it from being able to move. So we just wanted to share that. That was just purchased and we just trained on it last week. When those photos are from, that's to complement our fire blanket that we purchased last year and a new fire nozzle that we can use to put underneath a vehicle if a battery pack is involved in fire on an electric vehicle. So just a few tools that we have in our toolbox to use if needed. A brief update on the Saturday station duty. We've completed 7 weeks of it, weekends, Saturdays, plus the 4th of July. We've had 11 members of the fire department participate in shifts from 6 hours to 24 hours. We expect that probably it will remain at around those 11 or 12 people out of our 22 members. As we said, it's an optional, you know, not everybody wants to work those hours. We've completed about 25% of maintenance, flushing, lubricating, and testing, and having the water department repair hydrants that have issues. So we've completed a quarter of those in the village, and we will have them all done before the winter. And that again is required by the water department, and the insurance services organization looks at those, and we have to have them flushed annually. We have not flushed the village throughout all of the hydrants in the village in about 3 or 4 years due to manpower. So we're going to have this all done. We'll be able to get the most points on our next insurance audit by having them all maintained annually. We had our first call a few weeks into our Saturdays, which was a fire alarm. It wasn't a cooking related fire alarm. This was a overheated motor that caused smoke up at Gilmore Academy in one of their buildings. So our firefighter that was here was able to respond immediately. Could likely cut our response time by 7 or 8 minutes from somebody coming in from home. So again, that was the purpose of this program. And he was then met by folks that came in from home. Lastly, we've been able to increase station maintenance, station training. A couple of the folks, including the chief on station duty time, were able to build for about $100 something that we budgeted to purchase for $2,500 for this year. So we've been able to accomplish some things like that. Lastly, 2 days ago, we installed a AED, automated external defibrillator, over on the wall, the rear of the service garage, adjacent to the tennis courts. So you'll see it. It's a big red box with a big sign above it that says AED. That was discussed last September at the Safety Committee meeting. We thought it was beneficial to purchase that with the increased activities, children at the playground, pickleball, tennis. That was purchased with safety funds, which again is a fund that residents donate to. So that was purchased, it's installed, it's operational over there. And we're hoping to, at some point down the road, maybe have a community program for an hour or so one night where we can go through the operation of CPR and AED. So folks are likely to use it. That concludes everything I have. Any questions?
Great report, Mike. And one question about the Tesla and that new equipment. I assume that is good for any electric car or hybrid.
Any electric vehicle or plug-in electric hybrid in North America.
Okay. Good.
Yes, and the company, if they're trying to standardize plugs on all the vehicles now, but the company will send us out any adapters if for whatever reason a new manufacturer comes out and doesn't comply to the creates their own plug.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you all. Under section 10, committee reports, we'll start with broadband. Councilwoman Deacon.
Thank you, Steve. So we are ready to go in terms of public meetings in order to review the RFPs that we received. Again, these will be public meetings. Notice will be posted. We'll be using a scoring tool. Our first meeting is Friday, July 26th from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. We'll be over in the Village Hall. The committee has reserved time on Friday, August 9th as well, in case we have questions for any of the vendors or if we want them to make a presentation. And then finally, we have a little bit of time on August 19th to finalize our recommendation and plan on making a recommendation to council at our next meeting in August. Again, we'll be using a scoring tool and we'll be going through the RFPs in detail on the 26th.
Thank you. Any
Thank you.
questions?
You said that meeting's August 26th?
I'm sorry, it's
Or it's
July
September-
26th. Did I
Jul-
say
I'm sorry,
August?
July 26th.
August, July 26th, 10 to 2. And it'll be posted because it's a public meeting, there'll be minutes and so on. Todd,
Okay.
thanks for all your counsel around the mechanics. August 9th, 10 to 12, if we need presentations or have questions for vendors. And then finally, a short meeting on the 19th with a recommendation at our next meeting.
Okay.
So we don't know who these two bidders are until July 26th, is that what we're saying?
Right. It'll be posted and it'll be part of the public meeting. Right. Exactly. Thanks, David.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Dixon Morgan, Treasury Investment Board, please.
We met with Ancora.
Hit the green, you gotta hit the button to
Here?
get the green. Yes,
Thanks.
thank you.
We met with Ancora and they gave us a new set, a simplified set of investment guidelines, which the committee has reviewed and agrees that they make sense. So we're going to recommend that we adopt those guidelines. They obviously have to be incorporated in some legal document. So this is just the guidelines part of it, but I think that was progress. At the moment, I'm new to the job, but I think Ancora is doing a reasonable job. The numbers are in line, but we're just getting started as a group. So we're gonna dig into this thing and see if there are things we need to do. But I think we're off to a good start.
Well, we're glad to have you on board and your professionalism. The meeting was wonderful and was both factual and as well as good qualitative comments on what we invest in and how and who helps us. So it's been good to have you on board.
Thank you.
The investment policy statement, if the three of you on the board are done with it. And I think, did Kevin send those changes on Star Ohio to make sure Star Ohio is in there? I think Kevin from Ancora was going to add Star Ohio to the policy statement. I think all it said was US Treasuries.
Oh.
And we wanted to add that.
Okay.
Okay, anyways, we'll clean,
That makes sense, yeah.
yeah, we'll clean that up and then it'll go to Todd to be able to work into the
Yep.
ordinance.
Yep.
And that'll be. Yes,
We decided that since we had reviewed it and we were in agreement that did not need to have a meeting on the 23rd.
okay, one less meeting.
I'm sorry. I should
Yep.
have told you that. The boardroom is now free.
So we'll look for that to be formally presented and approved by council at the next August meeting. Thank you, Dixon, and thank you, board members. Finance and budget, I went through that in some detail. Current financial situation is solid. Looks to be on or slightly better than budget. Our financial schedules for the next 3 years were also updated. It shows us to be roughly perhaps $1 million surplus in each of those 3 years, which again is positive. We have added in the cost of a fire truck spread over 3 years. Again, these are indicative numbers. These are not approved. They're not getting spent. They're just meant to show what our current thinking is on what our financial affairs are. Safety issues, we have a meeting planned on September 4th. That meeting's been posted and the members have been notified. The chiefs and I have a pre-meeting on the 21st to go through the topics that we want and to gather the data so that they're prepared in advance. Everybody's welcome to that presentation, that meeting if they want to on September 4th. The topics that we anticipate at this point are discussion on the traffic camera, hiring a full-time officer. We're having some depletion of ranks in our part-time officers. There's some of the locations where those gentlemen and ladies are full-time are now restricting their ability to be part-time elsewhere. We're going to talk about the need for a third officer at times to be available in the evenings. On the fire side, we'll talk about the fire station duty that we have had now for 7 weeks and begin a conversation on a fire truck, which we've talked about for about 2 years and have always punted. So it's time to wrestle with what are the requirements and what's the cost and how do we do that? And do we really need one and how do we pay for it, et cetera. Okay. Tree canopy, I asked David Anton to summarize the meetings that the tree canopy committees had in the last couple of weeks. David?
I will. I'm going to read this because my chairman approved it, so I better stick to it. So I'm going to read it. Conserved property owned and controlled by Gates Mills Land Conservancy in the village combined is about 500 acres. This amounts to less than 10% of the surface area of the village. Therefore, if we're going to meet a serious objective about preserving and enhancing the tree canopy, clearly the private owners of the other 90% plus of the village need to become not just interested, but engaged and committed. So that's going to be a large part of whatever this plan turns out to be, is how do we get villagers engaged and committed to it. The 7-member committee has had 3 meetings and 1 local field trip since we were established a couple of months ago. We are educating ourselves on the challenge of our objective with the enthusiastic expert help of Ohio Department of Natural Resources. There's a guy called John Kane who's been around the business for a long, long time and is very eager to help us and thinks this is a great project for him to be involved in. And he's an excellent guy. I've worked with him now. We're working with the county to see how best to update its 2017 tree canopy evaluation, which had demonstrated the 5% decline since 2011. That's now 7 years ago. And we think it's important we understand where we are as a village with our own tree canopy, and we're trying to figure out how to do that. We're conducting preliminary discussions. This is actually being done by the ODNR guy with the Metro Parks to see if they'd be interested in any collaboration with us whatsoever. They own 400 acres in the village, of which we have absolutely no control, but they have some of the same issues to deal with when it comes to tree canopy as we do, so they might be interested in collaboration. We're identifying some early pilot projects on GMLC village land that would be clearly visible to residents, would demonstrate some of the things that have to be done if we're going to take this thing seriously going forward. Invasive species removal or management in particular. We're exploring additional sources of fund. There's a lot of grants out there at all levels of government, and we're trying to see how we might fit into that picture, because this project will take a funding, and if we can get grants and whatever, that will obviously help. Our short-term objective is to produce a tree canopy plan for the village during the next 12 to 18 months. We want to bring together a plan which has a long-range perspective that starts talking about the things we need to start doing quickly, or certainly within the next year or two. This will enable council to understand the costs and benefits of protecting and enhancing our tree canopy, and to prioritize which activities we should be conducting within the village's overall financial capability, including grants and so on. It will also enable residents to see how they can engage and participate to ensure that sustained success of the overall project. So villages, we hope, will be engaging them. They'll be interested. They've said they are, so we need to see if they pay attention. Finally, if we are indeed able to protect and enhance our tree canopy and our natural environment, including the other two subcommittees, wildlife and waterways, the values of all properties in the village, we believe, will also be enhanced. So this is about property value protection as much as it is things looking beautiful. And the wider spread the effort is, the more successful it will be. And now this is an old man talking with some optimism. By preserving the legacy that nature and our predecessors have provided, which is substantial. I mean, we're in a very privileged position here because of what nature's done for us and what our predecessors have done for us for the last 200 years. We will be passing on to grateful future generations for their continued enjoyment and stewardship. So that's what I agreed with my chairman I should say today, and I said it. And it's all good stuff. Thank you.
There's been a lot of great activity and a lot of new energy from some new committee members. So, we started,
And some old ones.
well, that's correct. It'll bring out people that we haven't had much exposure to in the past, or them to us as we operate as a council and administration and the management team that we have. So this is exciting. We've got full attendance at all the meetings. It's a topic that everyone feels personally invested and passionate about. So we're off to a really good start. Thanks to you and Sandra and Nat for launching this. Any comments or questions about the Tree Canopy Committee? Okay, one last committee report. It's not on here, but Ed, FYI, I owe you a quick update on the cemetery updates. We have been working off of the list that we have accumulated over the last couple of years when we did not have available lots. We do have some available lots, as you know, as the cemetery got reconfigured. Janet is working from the top of the list first and very studiously approaching anyone that was previously on that list. And it goes back a number of years to see if they're still interested. And then we'll be able to report what we have available.
Okay, you told me to hold off on calling a meeting. You don't want to call a meeting for the cemetery.
Why don't you give us give us 6 weeks to the end of August, and because then we should have heard back from substantially at least half the people.
Okay,
We're doing them kind of in groups of 5, and they take time, and then they got to check with somebody,
I
and
understand.
some want to come out and look at the parcel and see where they would be laid to rest, and it's a little more than just a one phone call. Yeah. Okay, that's all I had in terms of committee reports. Any other committee reports from anyone?
I had a question. The fire department before had talked about offering an emergency medical technician basic course, and they wanted to put it under consideration. I may be in the position of providing that course because, I am a paramedic, and they're offering the course at where I work. So if there is any interest, let me know.
Okay, Mike, can I ask you to check with Tom and you guys?
Yeah, I'm not in the
Back up
position
to
yet, but I should be pretty soon.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, item resolution number 11, first reading, a resolution authorizing the mayor to execute and deliver a subdivision participation and release form. to settle the village's claims and participate in a settlement agreement against Kroger's in the national opioid prescription litigation and declaring an emergency. This is a fairly standard form. We have been a small recipient of a small amount of dollars of these various opioid settlements. Todd's prepared the resolution for us. So unless he has any further comment, I would ask for a motion.
Move to approve.
To declare an emergency, to waive the 3 readings, please. Ed.
Okay, move to approve emergency.
Thank you. Michael?
Wait,
Second.
Thank you. Okay, well,
motion to suspend.
motion to suspend.
Reading.
3 readings to 1. Recommended by Ed, approved by Michael. Roll call.
Anton.
Yes.
Broom,
Yes.
Deacon,
Yes.
Press.
Yes.
Steinbrink.
Yes.
Turner, Welsh.
Yes, move to approve.
Second.
Thank you. Roll call.
Anton.
Yes.
Broom,
Yes.
Deacon,
Yes.
Press.
Yes.
Steinbrink.
Yes.
Turner, Welsh.
Yes.
Thank you all. Any other matters that council wishes to bring before the body tonight? Is there any business from the audience tonight? Mr. Spear, please address the microphone. Please indicate your name, but not your address.
Chuck Spear, I'm a resident,
Thank you.
and I want to talk about noise. And I see the police chief is cringing over there, but I don't want to talk about that kind of noise. I want to talk about another kind of noise. This group over the last several months has talked about taxes. It was going to be a 3%, then it was going to be a 4%. Today, anyone watching this broadcast is going to be scared to death because, Ed, you've said it's going to be big. You looked at yours.
Yeah, ours was 20 and 29%.
You've said yours is going to be big. Plain Dealer said, I think the number was like $232,000 of additional revenue coming to our village. Sounds like a speculation to me, but maybe we'd budget it. So I got my letters today.
Yeah, I did too.
Me too. I have 2 properties. Here's my house. Assessed value goes up 6.9%. Taxes go down 12.3%. That's my house. I have a flag lot. Current market value goes down 28.5%. Taxes go down 41%. So the anecdotal evidence that we're hearing about all rise. The 3%, the 4%. Total speculation, and I think we have to be really careful about that, as I've said for a long time. Geauga County did it badly. The citizens rose up in anger. So let's try and collect as much actual information before we start scaring people. That's the noise I'm worried about.
Thank you for that perspective, because we don't get that often. If there's no other business from the audience, I'd like to motion to move into executive session. Scott, I think you have recommendation?
I would agree that we. Well, I guess I would approve motion to move.
Well, I think you'd make a motion.
Make a-
Todd, help us out here.
I would make a motion that we would move into executive session.
What-
Yeah, I think you have to state the purpose.
He's getting there.
Would you like some help?
That'd be helpful.
Hold on, I got a runner somewhere, I thought.
And believe it or not, we were all prepared for this.
Potential land acquisitions or property dealings by the village.
No, that's not quite it.
Close enough.
I need to give advice to the council and mayor with respect to certain things, as well as discussion about the acquisition of a property interest for public purposes.
All right, so I would move that we go into executive session to solicit advice from our legal counsel, Mr. Hunt, regarding potential acquisition of property interests for public use.
And other legal issues.
Other,
Can I have a second to the motion? Thank you, Sandra. All in favor?
Aye.
Roll call.
Eton,
Yes.
Broom,
Yes.
Deacon,
Yes.
Press,
Yes.
Steinbrink.
Yes.
Turner,
Yes.
Welsh.
Yes.
Thank you.
Where are?
So we are meeting in this small ante room
Okay.
off of the lobby.